In the 1950s, in came, where jewelers started thinking, oh my gosh, you could get engaged, you can make engagement rings, and you can make so much money, and that's kind of was this energy that went around with diamond rings, with engagement bands. That's as new as the 1950s, where, back in time, it's like jewelry was symbolism. It's almost like how we're using tattoos now, but we still can use our jewelry in that way too. It's like, oh my gosh, we use it with gems that we use, shapes that we love. I'm back to my triangles. I talk a lot about, we all, if you go back and look in your studio and look at your pieces you collect or look at your shapes that you do, you're gonna find, this is how you get your body of work going. You're gonna find that you're using a lot of the same shapes over and over again as an artist. The description of a talisman is pieces that give you a reinforcement of a specific feeling that you're looking for in your life, right? Why not bring it towards you? So you could bring these talisman words towards you in a number of different ways. So when you're in your studio working, and with intentional metalsmithing, I always talk about clearing. So when you get into your studio space and start doing your soldering, your reinforcement of building, so it's like I saw ways that talisman were built back in time. They were built, sometimes when the moon is getting fuller, full moons, different days of the week. Actually, there's a book right here, Different Days of the Week. I don't get so deeply in it. It's like I kind of feel like I work on more of an intuitive level. But this book is in my Amazon books, and this is Amulets and Talisman, the complete book by Magine Gonzalez Whippler. I know it's backwards for you guys, but this is in my Amazon books. I have a list in there. If you're interested in getting into really deep details about talisman, I usually like to read and then breathe it in and incorporate it into my life and then read something else, so there's different ways to do this. But I like it because it's very historical. It talks about back in time, mostly Europeans. But believe me, this is all cultures, as you guys know. Traveling around and finding talisman. So think about talisman in your life and in your work, but also ceremonial pieces. I just am here to remind you guys that, originally back in time, when what really always, it's like when I was an artist and started doing jewelry, your pieces are for the wall many times, when you're not wearing them. Statement pieces, ceremonial pieces, pieces that, it's like actually this next coming month in Unfolding, we're really getting into the raw nitty gritty of our own ceremonial pieces where, we're so used to building with, oh, I hope this looks pretty on such and such. You know what I mean? Like, what can we do here? This is one, if you guys haven't seen, this piece I absolutely adore. I built for a performance piece, and it's on my Jewels of the Nomad. Who wouldn't want to, this actually isn't tight enough. This is tight when you wear it, but who wouldn't want to wear a piece that you could express yourself in this way, right? I do. I wouldn't wear it to dinner, but I would wear this just to walk in a room. You could even hold it up and you've got everything you need, right? Who cares what clothes you're wearing? And, so it's like, I'm really talking a lot about expression of materials, so it's like twisting and rubbing prayers into things. That's a way you can build talisman. Marking, embedding, wrapping is a way. People were asking me to do pieces that of fringe that came all the way out to here and all the way down past your knees, It was a lot of work, but I kind of had a little system there, it was nice. And it's like, now in thinking about building your pieces, I just got this back from a photo shoot. And so I do have this piece here, but like in thinking about really expressing yourself and what use of materials that you would use and what your talismans are, and what makes you feel good, the colors. I think anyone who has really been following my work for a while knows that I talk a lot about the reds, the oranges, the yellows, those colors just turn me on for so long, right? If it's not those colors, yeah. So everyone has their own colors. I love having my pieces around me. This one actually isn't quite a piece that looks that great on me, but I just have this on a wall. I think it's like For me, it's like, you know what, like this one does, because this one comes in a V shape, You kind of know which ones are for your ceremonial. Ceremonial pieces don't have to be super, super big, but they can be teeny tiny. Sometimes it's even crazier. This is another one that is really like, just an expression of what I have to say, in colors. A little bit more the inhales, exhales. I was doing a lot of yoga during this time, and it's like, to me, when I do my yoga, it's always these, that I also talk about in the other course. So, it's like when I started unfolding, I tell you guys that I am learning right alongside of you guys. I am learning so much. In unfolding, we literally are in a talisman every day. We're at every day, and it's like required. So it's like, for me, there's a power of a group. I could be in my own talisman by myself, for a whole month, but why not be with a group? Because the power of a group is friggin' amazing, And it's like, in there, I'm showing ways to clear and ways to get in closer. So it kind of is a next step from intentional metalsmithing. I'm really loving it so much. It lifts people up, and we all lift each other up. I started noticing, so a lot of my noticings and studies came many years ago when I started teaching classes. I noticed that like would attract like, and people would sit together who were so similar, so it was really fascinating to me. And the pieces, like there'd be a whole table of people building artistically and crazy and experimenting. And then there'd be like a goldsmith table where everyone was really getting magnifique, really getting into the precision. So, it's like, but we all found a way we could pull each other up. And I noticed when a new person or a couple new people came into like a 5-day workshop that I had, that they would just be brought up by the group. So the group energy of ours, is in intentional metalsmithing. It's coming into the group. It's learning to build, being able to ask questions, have people answer you. It really is so helpful to have a group of jewelries. Back in the 80s and 90s, when I was in jewelry, oh my God, in the art world, it was so cutthroat because we didn't know any better, We all thought we took away from each other. And here was an interesting statement. Here was an interesting statement that I had by a minister once. I had a minister in my workshop, and it just blew me away because she said to me, she's like, Susan, you're so lucky to be in a field where there's not competition. She was like, in my field, there's so much competition. And I was like, what? Think about that statement. As a minister, it's just so competitive. So any field you're in, and we, in our group of jewelry, we don't do the competitiveness, because if you're in your head competitive, your customers, those are your customers you're going to attract. So exactly what I was talking about, like attracts like. So the clearer you can be in your head, the clearer you can be with your jewelry, the clearer you can be in who you are authentically. We're all different from each other. There's no way we can take away from each other. This is my go back to book. There's 2 of them. Like, this is in the raw. And one of the, some of the jewelry in here that really gets me, for me, it's like I move forward, I get my skills, I get polished. And, it's kind of that inhale and exhale of that jewelry piece that I showed you. It's like I get in and get really polished, and then I kind of back down a little bit and breathe and get into the raw again, This next month in Unfolding, we're going to be in the raw. Oh, this book is 100 on Amazon. So, it's like some of these pieces in here, oh my gosh, it's like, an expression. So these pieces were really built originally, and talking about ceremonial pieces, like these are symbolic, using symbolism. These are using, and this book is just filled with the feathers and the leathers and the, here's a little red, that cross right there, when it's like, that these people it's not a Christian cross. Many the crosses were way before Christianity even started, was the cross symbol, So it's like, I use a lot of that. I just don't get attached to exactly what it means. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but I love it as my symbolism, especially the shorter ones. So, and as far as expression, it's like a modern day tattoo. And if you can get into your studio and really just maybe one day a week. You know, a lot of times we're cranking out pieces for our customers, but if you can get in there once a week and just really build your talisman and have it in your workplace, you know, whether it's on the wall or you decide to wear it, you are, you know, you're bringing your vibration in. It is a talisman for you. And that means when you come into your studio and you see your piece hanging there, you immediately like, it brings to you the feelings that you intended when you were building that piece, when you wanted to create this piece, you know. So this piece here reminds me to get back to my raw, to get back to my core self, you know, when I have it hanging in here on this display. Why not on a display, you know? So that piece really is very special to me right now. And maybe, you know, when I change, in the 90s, I used to build these big ceremonial pieces, and I would let my clients and customers, if they bought something, I would let them bring it back and switch it out if they wanted to, you know, because my prices were always going up and your talisman are always changing, and it's a big investment, you know. It was a big investment. So I like this book, I like this piece. It brings me back to my core and back to who I am. You know, in unfolding, what I'm really trying to, what really this is all about is getting out of your unstuck and getting into your creative force. And it's just, you know, each month we work on all different ways of getting there. Like, how do you get there, you know? How do you get in your creative space? If you're in your creative space, you're in the moment and you are feeling so good. You are not if you're in a competitive brain, you could never get in that space. You know, it's like moving, like being grounded. So, you know, it's like one of the ways that I teach my creativity is like getting into your heart space, you know, all your different chakras, but getting into your heart space, and then making sure you're grounded, making sure your protection's up, so you could walk around in the world as an artist and show up and be a human being, you know? So this one I thought was really interesting. This one I don't have on the site yet, but this is actually the jewelry of Burning Man. You know, I don't think any of these things were open for a couple of years like Burning Man. I have never been. I know that there's some people on here that have been to Burning Man. I did meet the author of this book, and actually there's when I had ice resin, there's ice resin in here, and she did a whole, like at Burning Man, a whole resin type of workshop. But I marked a couple pages because I just wanted to show you, it's like here, when you go to someplace raw like Burning Man, you're really building your raw pieces, you know, like these pieces, you know, and you have an opportunity to wear the crazy. You know, in art school, when I was in art school, who was I just telling this to, you know? This is Ruby Bancorp, but you know, these are just different jewelers from Burning Man, which how cool is that to be able to walk in and, you know, I certainly wouldn't wear this there. Maybe I'd wear this piece, or I definitely would wear this piece to a concert or to a performance. Oops, let me grab this. Sometimes they could get a little tangled, but you know, I certainly would wear a piece like this that clips right onto my hand. How amazing, you know, if you don't wear it to dinner, but so jewelry back in time was all about the sound, you know, movement. It was all about performance. Back in time, before the internet, before our world kind of merged and, you know, became what it is, you could see so many differences. Like, I've been up in the middle of Chiang Mai, up in mountains where there was no electricity, and you know, there were bonfires at night and people were singing and dancing, and then you saw the jewelry come out and the symbolism and the talisman, and it just brought your joy and happiness, you know. So another way to describe a talisman is if you are at a bonfire or a performance, which I did have the nice opportunity to see that a couple weeks ago in San Diego. You know, there's a beautiful woman who's doing these moon ceremonies on the beach with your jewelry in performances. Oh, right? Does that sound amazing? How, you know, it's like there's so much about like empowering women and your jewelry and your movement jewelry. And it's like if you wore a piece like that and really performed down on the beach, you bring your piece home, and that also is a way you've embedded more energy into your talisman piece. unfortunate that jewelry really worked its way down into just being about a diamond ring and the nicest gold and the nicest cut gem. That's just a tiny part of what jewelry is all about. You know, for me, I've always studied the whole other side of jewelry. It's so fascinating and interesting to me. My shapes, I did circles for so long. It's like when I start building triangles and when I start building shapes like this in my life, these are arrows, right guys? Wouldn't you say these are arrows? When I start building these in my studio, I'm like, whoa, I'm about to start moving and shaking. I'm about to start action, you know? Triangles are, when they're pointed down, is an arrow. And for me, I build triangles. Like, I know myself, I recorded all this. You know, triangles are about action and going after your goals and moving forward, movement. Squares are about nice balance, being centered. There's certainly periods of the time where I really want to be centered, you know what I mean? So it's just interesting. Circles, you know, really is just about endless life. When I was, you know, working through big concepts and doing a lot of clearing, I built a lot of the circle shapes. So, you know, you'll find all kinds. Like, look at these nice arrows in this piece. This is a performance. This is about movement. This is about, you know, all the way down the row, you've got cylinders here of silver. Love this piece. And I'm looking forward to actually wearing this on the beach and doing some movement with this. So you guys, you know, if you're not, next week I talk to Intentional Metalsmithing, I show up, and then the week after that is with Unfolding. If you guys, you know, for anyone who wants to be in one of our groups, I think most people are, but if you want to be in one of the groups that's a private group where we show up and we have a Facebook page where we interact, I have an Unfolding group that is a membership, and it's really living within the talisman that I think is so much fun. It's an intermediate silversmithing, but there's so much going on in there. So, you know, for me, it's like, you pay $25 a month, and what you're paying for is to be inside of a talisman word with all of us, and then everything else is free. So you know, everything else is free. So there's like intermediate inspirational jewelry ideas. There's a creative page to give you prompts. There's creative movement to help clear. This month I went into that pretty deep. But also intentional metalsmithing. If you take one class, you're in intentional metalsmithing too, and in our groups. And really our groups are all about the good of the whole. They're about love. They're about helping each other. Almost all of us are women working together, moving forward. You know, it's like, I think what I like to do, because I have so much of a history in jewelry, because I've been in jewelry and adornment, symbolism in adornment and talisman for so long, and objects. So, you know, it's like I always look for different markets and different ways to study and so I really feel like, oh my gosh, I just feel so grateful that I know this field so holistically. I have been, you know, I've done museum exhibits at the Smithsonian. I've been on the runway in Milan and New York Jewelry Week and Fashion Week. I've been in Elle magazine, Vogue magazine, a number of, you know, fashion part of it. I've been in, you know, just doing a commercial line. In fact, I brought my piece here. I dug it up to show somebody. They asked about it. This will be the last thing that I'll tell you guys about today. This is actually industrial chic. So many people asked me about that. This was a commercial line of jewelry that I did in hand with Horizon, which they build all the toys for Disney. So we built this together for Michaels, exclusively for Michaels. And this line, we won an award one year because we won an award for like the product, but really what we won an award for was that it was their most, it was the most successful line that pulled in the most amount of revenue, right? So anyway, it was really fun that I have this bracelet made, and it actually was a commercial line of talisman, you know, from the original work of talisman. How did I was like, it was really an experiment for me because I built talisman. The work was built in China beautifully. You know, I got to really get everything done the way I wanted it to. It's not fine silver, you know, it's all made in different ways. But I actually just sat and I did like a group, and it's things that I show in Unfolding. It's like I did a group putting energy into the whole line, because talismans are about putting energy into your work. So it really was a nice experiment to me to see how like you have to charge talisman pieces. I wanted to see how I could charge the talisman that were being made in the thousands, in the thousands at a time, and how it could be effectively charged as talisman. So I was really happy with it. I think it really came across really interesting. This one was like around in 2010, maybe 9, 10, 11, something like that. This is my recent talisman. I have this on my shrine. I did a little talk on shrines a couple times back. If anyone is interested in kind of building their own shrine, like the how-tos about it, I brought these back from walking on the beach in Encinitas. Encinitas, I moved there when I was 19 years old and lived there for 7 years, and I hadn't really been back, and I did a trip, visited back there again, so I had to bring myself back some real estate. Nice real estate, so we'll see what I do with those. Now we're in love and gratitude, and oh my gosh, you guys, I'm in it a month before my group, and it's like I open up this space, and how beautiful. Like, I want to remind everybody in there too, is that this love and gratitude is all about you. It's like you get yourself so full of love and gratitude as mothers, as jewelers, as workers, as, husbands, wives, all of this. It's like we do so much for other people that we have to remind ourselves that it's absolutely 100% okay to be so indulgent and just give yourself all the love that you can take in your body, only you. And when this all sinks in, it can't help but to radiate outward. So you're gonna see, if you keep giving yourself, going into those meditations with the love and giving yourself, you're gonna start shining, and people are gonna notice a difference in you because they're picking up on your energy, and it's like the way you can help other people is just by saturating yourself with these beautiful talisman words like love and gratitude, right?